Three, two, one. Welcome, everybody. You found building a manager first approach to empowering your team. Sales enablement secrets. My name is Lauren Balick, LB to friends. I'm the founder of Factor 8, the sales bar and girls club. Yes, I do have a focus problem, but I also have a lot of really fantastic friends who are here today to help all of us. If you are new to Factor 8, I'm just going to show you really quickly who we are. We've been around for 15 years. I started Factor 8 after I spent years running global enablement teams and sales teams. And I couldn't find what I was looking for to help enable my virtual reps and managers. So I went out and built it, and we're celebrating over 15 years and some really exciting announcements I'm going to share with you at the end. This webinar is part of our ongoing Sales Shots series. We think we're pretty punny with our sales bar, and we make learning a lot of fun. So here are some of the upcoming workshops we're doing on our sales shots. You can find them all at factor8.com/shots and register for the next few. As you can see, we rotate between topics for reps, for managers, and for our friends at Enablement. Of course, that's what we're doing here today. Let's take a look at what's happening today. We're talking about manager first approach. Why? So we'll look at developing managers. We'll look at getting managers involved in developing groups. We'll talk about tips for better partnerships. And then we're going to talk about surviving some of the limited resources, etc. Now, you see the bonus, we're doing an exchange. If you're hiring, it's okay if you're watching the recording because you can still hit the link. Or if you are seeking, we have something to drop. In fact, Amy, if you're ready, drop in the chat right now. If you're hiring, upload your jobs there. If you're looking on the next page, you can upload that you're looking. We're going to help each other out. It's been tough in enablement for the last year. It's been real tough. So we've got some stuff to help you here today. These distinguished panelists, here are today's challenge. In 30 seconds, you're going to introduce yourself and your role and your company and your favorite job ever and why. So here's some 30 seconds of us. My name is Lauren Bailey. My company is Factor. My role is founder and bottle washer and client success and marketing, and you understand that. And my favorite job ever is this one, right? I get to pick the people I work with. I get to find amazing folks, and we get to get in and make a difference again and again and again without some of the red tape and the politics you get in your own organization. All right, Michelle, you're next.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I don't even know how to follow that whole intro because it was so great. But Michelle Dodson, I actually just started a role as a global VP of go-to-market enablement, and check LinkedIn in a couple days and you'll see where. My favorite job has been being a mom. It's been awesome. I am a dishwasher, a carpool driver. I am a therapist, and I make chicken nuggets 7 days a week. So that is my favorite job.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, who's next? Anna.
30 seconds. That's just, oh, okay. Well, hi,
I know.
everybody. My name is Anna, and I'll take hopefully 10 extra seconds just to say thank you to you, LB. And I just wanted to call out that I'm actually here with a bunch of lady leaders that I used to work for. So Michelle and Cheryl, both of you, it's just amazing. So I'm really excited to be here. But 30 seconds of me. I've been deep in the sales enablement space for 15 years, worked for big companies like Oracle, smaller companies, and most recently was at Zoom, where I founded the Sales Manager Excellence Program. And so really excited to talk about managers. They are my favorite people. And then no offense to the moms, I am too, but I would say my most favorite job was bartending. I bartended for years throughout college and into my first job, and curated a lot of stories and met a lot of people. And sometimes they're more fun than when your kids are giving you attitude. So I love my children, but I'd say that was the funnest job I had.
I come to work for a break for sure. Yeah, I love that. And I have an announcement happening about you and your role that I'm gonna pressure at the end of this. But first, let's meet John.
Thanks, LB. Hey, everyone, John Utter here, a longtime sales management professional across various industries before I transitioned to sales training and enablement in the late 2000s, most recently in travel and high tech. Always striving to use my practical expertise to empower the next generation of sales leaders. I would have to say my favorite job was that of being a high-level soccer referee. I used to referee professional, semi-professional, and collegiate games, and it really teaches you how to think under pressure.
I love that. Super cool. Thank you, John. John and I worked together when he was running new hire training for globalization partners and Factor 8 partnered together. And I learned so much from you. I love that. So I appreciate you being here to share your secrets.
My
All right,
pleasure.
Cheryl, my newest friend. And the winner
Hi.
today. Tell everybody why you're the winner too.
Oh, I just typed it. So I'm a winner because Anna just joined our Juniper enablement team, and I am so excited to work with her again. So I feel like a big time winner. I have been essentially in enablement since before there was enablement, because a long time ago, I'm really old. And I worked for a long time. So I've had a number of careers, and one of my longer careers was in product marketing, and sales enablement was a key part of my job. And that's kind of how I ended up in this role, and I freaking love it. But I have to tell you, my favoriteest job ever was an eon ago. My second job ever was at HP, and I was doing technical enablement, and it was before kids, and I traversed around the country and did 3-week technical trainings for roomfuls of response center engineers and on-site hardware engineers. And I do think that was my most fun job ever, where I spent 3 weeks, and it was in the days where there was no Zoom, and there was not even on-screen projection from your laptop. I had binders full of those slide things in plastic, and heaven help me when the binder fell on the floor. Oh my God. Yeah, that was my favorite job ever. I've loved all my jobs, and honestly, when I found enablement, I determined this is where I was meant to be. So freaking love everything about enablement.
I freaking love you already. This is going to be fun. I'm so glad, Anna, you brought us together. So we're talking about enablement secrets, and really we're going to start with this manager-led approach. That can be frustrating for people. And so we're going to start first with a little poll. Let me launch this sucker. Launch poll. Everybody, please. Here we go. We're starting with why managers first? And do you have enablement programs for your managers? So go ahead and vote. Oh, it's fun. I love watching the results live, right? They're coming in, they're talking, no, the next one, no, the next one. Either you have no offerings today for managers, which is pretty common, right? We all get busy first with new hires and ongoing reps and product training, right? The priorities for enablement are ever evolving and stacking. Or we have a great in-house program, you work with a vendor, or it's kind of ad hoc, like a little low cost, no cost. I don't see a lot more activity happening. We didn't have everybody, so if you can, please jump in quick and vote for us. Your thinking time is ending. And the first question I'm going to ask my panel is, why start with managers? So we're going to give this a second for the last few people to vote. And let me go to you first, John. I love the head nodding already. Like, why should we? Why is it important we prioritize manager development? John's still nodding, but find that mute button and tell them it is. Nailed it.
I firmly believe it all begins and ends with the managers, in the sense that you can come in as an enablement professional, but really, if you wanted to not die in the vine, you really need to get the managers involved and make it easy for them to do their job, as well as you're trying to make it easy for the sales reps.
All right, we disagree. Agrees who disagrees, panel? Does it start and end with manager, Cheryl?
Yeah, I I see managers as critical for enablement. I think it's a tight partnership. And part of that is because like enablement can only scale so far. And do I know how people really are doing feet on the street, on the ground? No, I can't be everywhere at once. So I think it's essential to leverage managers and have a tight partnership in what we're trying to accomplish with all the individual contributors, and make sure managers understand the plan, understand what we're trying to do, and they're on board and actively engaged in a number of ways in ensuring that what we do sticks and becomes real life.
So let me tie these two together for you. And Anna and Michelle, jump in anytime here. But one of our secrets to success at Factor 8 is wherever possible. I know you want to bring us in to hire and train your AEs or your BDRs, but wherever possible, start by training your managers because that's how you're getting that buy-in. So many frontline managers haven't experienced great facilitation and received great training and are therefore not fans of or proponents or cheerleaders for what you're trying to do with their reps. But when we can engage them first, we develop, right? And we start developing the learning culture and they understand what to expect. And it does make it smoother for us. But are we all seeing these poll results? Look who's the winner. No offerings or, go read this book ad hoc. I love only 6 of us, 14%, really have a great in-house program. And Anna, that's what you were building at Zoom. So what's your commentary on this?
Yeah, I noticed the poll results, and I actually noticed somebody in the chat saying that they had that role, which is incredible because 4 years ago there was nothing. And so I sat a lot of late nights with Michelle and Hillary at the time talking about that managers have always been the biggest bet. So everything everybody mentioned, they're the linchpin, they're the multipliers. And then like if they're not bought in and if they don't see the value in it, then you're not getting through them and you're not getting to the fields, which is where like we said, we spend most of our time in. And so
Yeah.
a lot of learnings through the years. I would say some of those things you're asking about, how can we get them successfully on board? I found that there's kind of like 2 angles. So one, the new managers, as you mentioned, a lot of them have been new and have not been in that role before. So it's kind of actually a different program. And then you have your super seasoned sales leaders that are like, I don't need to go through this training. I've already done this. I've done this before you were born. Yes, I've heard that one too. And we're not trying to tell you how that, I think the beauty of being a leader is that you can maintain your own style, but you do want to make sure that you're helping align what they're needing to do from a coaching standpoint to the company's overall goals. And so I think about that slightly differently. And so there are a lot of different programs that you might want to think about. But ultimately, we know that the managers, they're going to be inspiring and motivating and actually driving towards the ultimate performance that we want to see. So
So,
yes.
and what I'm hearing you say is that some of your top tips are, yes, teach the managers job training and make it available, but don't just make it that because that can be offensive to the folks who have been in seat
Yeah.
for a while, right? So find the things that are inspiring to them that are going to connect them with higher leaders in the company.
Yes,
Interesting. Michelle?
that's a huge benefit for them. And one little tip I'll add is just that I've noticed that with the more seasoned leaders that join trainings and, at Zoom, we kind of phased our way into a larger program, but, it first started as kind of a new hire manager program, like right off of like their onboarding week. And it was a little basic, but what I learned is that if you're a leader, you kind of have to choose to be in a leader spot if you want. I think that it's a choice for most of us if you want to be a manager or not. And so what I found is that we have leaders that intrinsically love coaching. And so if I can flip the narrative for them and say, this isn't just a new training for you, but you would look at these peers as your community. You're all in this together as a team. Being a manager can feel lonely. You're like responsible for so much. And so we flip that narrative so that these leaders even if you're seasoned or even if you're brand new, you're now part of doing the same thing, which is increasing your performance for the organization. So,
But creating that community really does make a difference. Things changed for me in my first management training when I was a frontline sales manager. I
yeah,
was on an island, and that island's name was Chardonnay. And
can't do it without liquor. Yes.
yeah, exactly. All right, so we're showing tips now, Michelle. I can't wait to hear from you. What are tips to get managers engaged with us?
So I'll give you a tip, but before I say that, I have a hot take, and I actually don't enable sellers. I won't. I tell all of my leaders that's not where I will spend my time. And I tell them, if you don't plan to invest in the managers and you don't plan to invest in leaderships, I am not the girl for you. So I fundamentally believe that change can only happen through leadership, and leadership can only be taught through a certain process and style. So you're either going to love that and you're going to want it, or you're going to be like, she's crazy and that sounds really expensive. But the organizations that I've been able to work at really valued leadership and development. So one tip on buy-in is it's pretty easy. A lot of sales leaders don't get training. They don't get communicated to. Things are done to them, not for them. They are not included. And so the day that you start a job, the day that you launch a program, if you go manager first, I want to let you know this is happening. This is what I expect of your rep. This is what I expect of you. This is how we're going to work together. They see you as a partner. And the minute that they see you as a partner, they will endorse it. They will help you. You will get a lot more buy-in. So really it's making a very selected group feel important and seen and included in things they have to drive. And people skip it, right? We treat managers like, go check why they didn't finish their certifications, go do this in the field, go run this training. And we're really not talking to them like partners. And I think if you flip how you have that conversation, you end up having 200 additional enablement resources instead of just your own team or your own program.
Michelle, I agree wholeheartedly. Also with your hot take, we have that policy at Factory where we don't train the reps unless we train the managers first. And I'll share with everybody that actually we built a class called Developing Your Team. It's not teaching them how to be a manager, it's teaching them their role in what we're doing in enablement. But I'm going to yes and you. Not only do a lot of folks miss the rollout, but when you can get them involved prior to the rollout, some of that key needs analysis, some of that key interviewing, right? You may or may not change your program, but they all think that they contributed to it. Then I think you'd get that huge buy-in +1. What can you add, Cheryl?
So 1,000% what Michelle said. And when I was at Infoblox, we evolved, and the entire team, literally when we rolled out anything. So we had an annual plan, we had a quarterly plan, everybody knew what was expected and everybody was kind of bought into the plan. But as we rolled out a lot of change management programs and big rock skill enablement, we always had the managers on board first. And yes, Michelle, we always said, when we do the rollout, the first people that get trained are the frontline managers. So we did regional frontline manager training, answered all the questions, got through any obstacles or objections. And then we had the frontline managers on board and got them excited so that when we rolled it to all the reps, the managers were ready to coach them. And sometimes we gave them jobs like, hey, you're going to run this role play, for example. Here is your kit on running the role play, and you're going to input people's scores into our platform. So a lot of times we fully engaged them and expected them to be part of the enablement, but we had to have their buy-in or nobody would do it anyway. And then the enablement has to stick, and we have to teach them how to make it part of their operationalizing of whatever we were trying to roll out, whether it's territory planning or anything else. So yes, heavy on managers first. And when you enable them, they'll drive all the rest.
Cheryl, I want to double click on something you just said. Stole that from somebody last week. It's a little nerdy, isn't it? Double click. Anyway, you talked about rolling it into their current operations. And I don't think we can overstate that, right? Sales management is the busiest job I've ever had. It did not win my favorite job ever just now, right? It was rough. And so if we can make our program fit into their existing cadence, their existing meetings, instead of trying to create brand new things in their world that won't have time for, I think that's a huge step in the right direction. Any tips on how you achieved that?
Um, careful planning and and buy-in. So the operationalizing of anything, it means something changes. And I just think, from a mindset perspective, delivering whatever training or content or program that you roll out, it's not done until managers make it a part of their like weekly lives. So the biggest example for me is MedPick. Like, I feel like all of us have rolled out MedPick or Medic or some variation of that like over and over. And the only way anything sticks is if the managers say, oh, when I'm going to have an actual like bi-weekly deal review, we're going to pick a deal, and as a team, we're going to review it. And when managers start doing stuff like that, then programmatically, like MedPick sticks. When MedPick becomes a part of everyday actions, language, whether it's deal reviews or you're just kind of reviewing somebody's entire territory, that's where the rubber hits the road. Otherwise, you roll something out and everybody gets really hyped for the first 3 months. And then all of a sudden you realize nobody even talks about it anymore because it doesn't become part of your weekly habits.
One thing I'd love to add to that is I don't think we should be training sales managers without understanding their operating rhythm. So LB, to your point, I think in enablement, sometimes we think about, I'm going to teach them how to be a coach. Well, the coaching framework needs to be part of their specific operating rhythm and cadence. And so where people miss, or where people then have an incomplete view of what the manager needs to do every day as a manager, as a leader, and then with their reps, but then when do you train them? When do they get their training? Like, you really have to take a step back and say, these are the 5 things you're expected to do. I will train you how to do that. I will give you guidance. And here's what your week, month, quarter look like. And I feel like a lot of our programs are just, let me train you on how to build high performance teams. Great, Michelle, I really don't care because I need to close the quarter. But if you were to build it into their cadence and they understand when it's important, why it's important, to your point, I think you then have like a full cycle of learning and process, and then the managers actually find the value.
Love that. John, I'm going to let you have a final tip here, but while we do that, I'm going to launch our next poll. Tons of great ideas, more happening in the chat, lots of applause for what we're getting here. Let's launch and see how we think we're doing out there. How engaged are your managers with the training you're doing for reps or individual contributors, right? We're talking about a lot of perfect world stuff here. Are we all there or are we not? So, John, what can you add to the mix? How do we get managers engaged?
Well, I think it's really we heard this word over and over, cadence. And it's a regular cadence of meeting with the sales management team, not just once a quarter or once every 6 months or because of a special occasion. If you've got that regular dialogue going and if you're rolling out this initiative, that you're building in the follow-up cadence as well as the rollout cadence. Because I think that's where a lot of enablement programs fall off, because it's, from one shiny penny to the next. But without that follow-up, it will tend to fall off the wagon, so to speak.
I really love what you said about that the follow-up's the key, right? And I think that you also use the word special event. And our industry has very often treated training like a special event, right? In fact, I had people, when I first started Factor 8, people would come to me like, well, I want to give my people training because, they've been on board for a few years and we haven't done it. But I don't want them to stop selling. So how are we going to do this? Like, it was just, they were 2 separate things. I can sell or I can train. Right? Nobody thought that they should take time for it. And I think where we've then evolved to maybe once a year we have a special event, right? And we do a workshop and we all get excited and then we forget about it. And now I think that it's become more of a regular cadence. So when we're partnering with clients, very seldom are we getting requests for, nor do we do just the special event. It's let's look at the 6-month, 9-month, 12-month, 36-month program here and how we're going to really affect change. So that's a mindset shift that we need to help some of our sales leaders get so that we have the access and to the managers and that bandwidth over a long period of time. Does anybody have tips on how they've been able to do that and shift that mindset from little to none or an event to it's ongoing?
Hire a manager role.
I was
Hire
gonna say
a
I
manager
hired
role.
Anna. That's what I did. The tip is hire Anna, and then Cheryl did that, so she's winning. But you need somebody focused on that, and Anna could tell you what she did, but it is not a one and done, and that means somebody's entire job should be focused on this effort.
I love how you say that. It was a surprise to me that it became my entire job. When I was in charge of global training at SAP, I spent most of my time, I thought I was going right into building and delivering training, and I spent most of my time with the executives explaining that you can't pry the kids' head off and just dump it all in, right? And here's how learning works, and here's the time we need, and here's the payoff, and step by step by step. But that really became my full-time role. I love that. I didn't even realize it was supposed to be, right? It felt like I was doing it wrong. So feel better now. Thanks. What about you, Cheryl?
So I think it's ideal to have somebody focused purely on manager enablement. Realistically, I feel like a lot of us have belonged to smaller teams where you couldn't just dedicate an individual to just that, but it became an integrated part of everything we do. And, regarding like big events and follow on, to me, it all tracks to like, what are the bigger initiatives and goals? And how are you building programs? To me, a big event is like a delivery model for one piece of a bigger program. So something like SKO, if you think of that and how are we gearing all of our learning during SKO to what do you want reps to do this year? What do you want managers to do this year? By the way, it was good. We had a manager day before main SKO this past January, and I thought that was brilliant. And we aligned the managers on here's how we want you all to create your rhythm of business this year. And it was stuff just for managers. And then we had SKO and we taught a bunch of product oriented stuff to everybody. And then there's follow on. And we had a whole new set of company messaging to roll out. So to me, SKO is like the beginning. And then the rest of Q1 you spend making sure like you're giving everybody, somebody one time coined the phrase license to sell. And I love that. Like every year, what's our license to sell in Q1 that we're going to do? And we're going to make sure everybody is accredited on how we want them to act and be, what behaviors and what skills we want to see show up.
Yeah, I love it. All of these are great tips, and it's so important that we log the fact that SKO is a kickoff. Okay, otherwise it's just an event. And by the way, everybody's hungover for at least half that event. It is edutainment. And we have to teach people the difference, right? If it's one way, it's not hands-on, people won't retain it. New hire on a video doesn't work, right? Just going to a neat webinar or watching a thought leader doesn't work. Those aren't things that actually get lift. It has to be professional, facilitated, adult learning theory, right? It's got things, not just some interesting babbles. So let's see where we're at. The poll results are telling us that most of us are in the middle. Sadly, only 3 people here have teams where they feel that full alignment. I was on a webinar 2 weeks ago with enablement people. I was a panelist, and when we started talking about involving the managers, it just lit up right in the chat. This is frustrating to people. We know what it should be, and we've gotten some good tips so far on how to get there, but I'm going to talk about more specific tips and tools. So tips for buy-in and tools that you've used that have helped you sustain the buy-in. And if it's okay with y'all, I'm going to start at the top level because Cheryl, I'm going to piggyback on something you were saying is that we've got to show it's not just onesie twosie training down here. We've got to show how it's going to pull in to the higher goal. Sometimes that is fighting for a seat at the table, right? At the executive table saying, hey, don't bring me in last minute and tell me to run negotiation training. Bring me in ahead of time and let's talk about the goals and how we're going to facilitate those. Does anybody have tips on getting a seat at that table or getting buy-in at the highest level? Let's start there.
Persistent.
Go
I
ahead.
know. It's facilitation. I
It-
should call on somebody. If you're trying to she'll figure it out.
I'm relatively new in my position here, and initially it's persistence, and showing your your value, that you're there to A, to make a difference, to B, to be a partner with them. It's not just about getting their buy-in, but again, we go back to cadence and spending time with them regularly to to understand their wants and needs is very important as well.
One thing I would say, and in my roles, I've been able to work with great vendors. So Lauren, Factor 8, I've worked with Sales Readiness Group, I've worked with Ambition. So when you talk about tools and groups that you can partner with, I think there's ways that you can show value. I'm going to be very honest. I haven't been a sales manager in 15 years. I haven't prospected. I haven't had a forecast call. I haven't built a pipeline. I could build a really great enablement team and culture of learning, but I haven't been in that role. And so where I try to get buy-in with my executives are, there are people who know what to do today, how selling has changed, buying has changed, managing has changed. And so there are people today who are experts out in the field who can bring in the right people and teach the skills at a level that people will respect. They don't want to hear from me. I haven't done it. And they want to hear from people who know exactly how it feels. So when you look at vendors, I would, and if you have the budget, I would go and really sell that. I can do a half-assed job. I can be somebody they don't trust, or we spend a little bit more and we bring in somebody who is an expert. And typically your leaders will agree, and hopefully you can find budget there. And then tools, there are a lot of tools, like the one that I've used, Ambition, LB, you know them well, but they, I can't guarantee that coaching is happening. I can't guarantee that the new positioning and pricing packaging that we want them to use is being used in the field. So I need tools that show me day to day, week by week, by a manager, by a segment, that what we are teaching them and what we are standardizing is being adopted in the field. So, in my role, I need a mix of buy-in, I need a mix of outside consultants, and a mix of tools. Not everybody has that, so I understand, but if we're talking about a dream, that's the dream scenario of using experts and having the tools to show adoption.
Yeah, I love that. And
I need to pile on to what Michelle is saying, because I think seat at the table, and this is like has been my soapbox for years. Seat at the table is taking all the OKRs from the revenue org and even up top to the CEO and saying, okay, so if these are the OKRs, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And really just assessing, okay, if this is where we are now in pipeline, in new accounts, in whatever, here's where we are, here's where we want to be. What is the gap that's going to prevent us from getting where we want to be? And how do I build a plan for the year and each quarter that is absolutely fueling like the OKRs? And how am I going to measure success? Like, I literally will set it up so there are real metrics associated with my programs. And I am not afraid of that. I will never say enablement is the sole contributor to those metrics. But if we're not willing to be graded on real things, like, is the needle moving and what is preventing the needle from moving? Like, that's it. That's seat at the table. Like, I care about your metrics, and we're going to build programs that help fuel the metrics that our CRO is being measured on.
Good.
And I will stand up and say, it didn't move. What are we going to do differently? But that's
You got to talk
That's a
numbers.
seat at the table.
If you want to sit at the table, you got to be able to talk numbers. I put together a translation sheet a while ago. If you speak enablement, you need to speak revenue, or if you speak revenue, you need to speak enablement. And I just put a link for that in there. But here's the number one tip: talk numbers. And here, let me just give you a real tactical advice of how to do and have that conversation that Cheryl just mentioned that is critical. Thanks for bringing it up, Michelle. Is you go to the CRO, right? You book an appointment and say, I need to align my programs to your goals. Can you talk to me about your most important metrics this quarter? You can't wait to be invited. You got to go knock down the door. And by the way, 4 quarters in a row, somebody's going to get a genius idea to just invite you to the damn meeting. So, all right, who else has an idea? We're talking about tools and tips to get that buy-in at high levels, or we could start coming down different levels. And Michelle, I love your idea of bringing in a vendor, but I'm going to tell you something from the vendor point of view. People do usually pay attention more when they have to pay for it. It's absolutely true. And I've had quite a few long-term friends that are sales leaders come in and say, LB, I've been telling them this stuff for 10 years, but maybe if I can bring you in and you can tell them, they'll finally listen. And it's true, right? Sometimes you have to give up a head count for an enablement person or a curriculum designer or whatever it is to bring in some of that credibility. It makes a difference.
I also think when you're talking to the CRO and your executives, I've done this multiple times. I'm like, do you want me to do this in 12 months or 4?
Straight up, be honest with me. Yeah.
No,
And
and
here's the
if they
difference we
say
can get.
4, I'm like, cool, great. This is what it costs. This is what it takes. But what you're asking me to do will take 12 months. So people don't typically understand the level of effort, the level of complexity, the amount of time that will take. And
Yes.
it's not because I'm not good at my job and it's going to take me 12 months. No, that's how long it'll take because of our cadence and our rhythm and our sales process and all the things you executives have going. So if you want to add value to the program, if you want to make it something that's really something they want to invest in, I would also just challenge their requests. Like every day we are being told what we need to build, the training we need to get out, but it's like, if you really want that and you want it done quickly and you want to see the impact, then I also need things to do it correctly. And I know that's not everyone's style to maybe be more upfront and say those things, but I think in our roles today, like I'm not a trainer. I actually don't train. I can't, I'm terrible in front of groups of people. Like that's not me. But if you actually want to build like a program and change behavior and get everybody on the same page, there's a really easy way to do that. And enablement is becoming less training and just running a skills workshop. And we have to become these like orchestrators of change. And so I would just, whenever, you are going and knocking on that door, like LB said, I would just ask, like, do you want it in 4 or 12 months? And that'll tell you so much about what you need to build.
Ah, that's gorgeous. And I love the visual, right? You're the conductor. And we can't grow all our own instruments. We can't just count on everybody picking up an instrument and playing it beautifully. We could really beat that analogy to death. John, you with me. What can you share with us?
You mentioned, so LBU as a vendor going in and talking to the CRO and having that conversation about what's important to you. If you as the enablement person don't know that should be a complete red flag. That if you think you know, that's an assumption. You really need to 100% be on the same page. And I've seen it happen over and over where, that conversation would take place between the vendor and the CRO, and you're like scratching your head going, I haven't heard that before. Or I didn't know that. And that's key to being on the same page.
It 100% is. And it's us asking the real questions and speaking their language. And any final tips at the high level, or do you want to bring it down a level and talk about how do we engage our revenue directors and frontline managers?
Well, I do want to say though that I agree with because I lived it with what Michelle was saying in terms of that tough conversation. And I think a lot of people that have joined us today are enablement. So I would say like it was really difficult to get budget like for a long time for this. And that was something that, just to put it out there, right? Like you can have the best business case out there and say, hey, your CRO is saying the same thing over and over and over. It was really difficult. But I think for enablement folks, like we kind of just sit there and we run the program, we plan the program, we set everything out. And sometimes it just felt like, well, I'll just give you the same numbers quarter after quarter for you to finally make that decision. So you do need those partners along the lines. But I would say one other tip to add on to how you get the engagement is like I did like 24-hour literal global road shows. That's all I did. Like I spent so much time like nuancing what I could, talking to the leaders like one-on-one, like, hey, we're both leaders here. Like the company has made a decision to purchase X, Y, and Z. This is what we're doing. Gonna need your help to just lean in with me and let's just do this. And then we can then open up the door. And it was a little bit of that very authentic back and forth, which is like, I am not purposely pushing you, but the company needs this. Like we're all aligned here. And so again, it's that mindset shift that you mentioned earlier. It's a little bit of that narrative change as well that make it so that we're all in a team, like we're on the same team, guys. Yeah. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. So that's kind of my approach, my tips, the things that I've always used in my own experience to help me get to where I've gotten.
Can I tell you something Anna did really great that she's not telling everybody, and she should? So we're just talking about the manager training part, but when you think about manager excellence, Anna and her team built out a monthly huddle. It was awareness. They built out a manager website. It was, where do I find my content and my assets? They built out newsletters. They had manager only chat groups. It was not just, here is the training. So I feel like we're getting stuck here is, again, the training part. Like manager enablement is a mix of multiple things. And Anna was trying to be cute, I get it, but her and the team had a whole small army really behind. There's like only a couple of people, but they were doing all the comms. They built the website, they built the training, they did the facilitation. Like it's not just training. So I just want to be clear, what we're talking about goes beyond just those sessions. So having all the way down to the frontline manager, they knew what was happening, why it was happening, and they had buy-in. And then she went on her 24-hour road shows, and that's how it worked. So Anna for president for sure.
Anna for president, yay! Sorry, wins. I'd like to down to talk about tools. So I'd like to go a little bit further with that. And before I do, I'm going to launch our next poll because Anna, you brought this up, like, or maybe it was you, Michelle. Like, we don't always have budget available to us. We don't always have people. Sometimes you have to ask quarter after quarter after quarter. And it's been rough out there for enablement. So while we've got a bunch of people on with us, we're going to launch a poll just to say, what's the state of the union here? What's happening in your enablement division? Are you hiring? And if so, please hit the link Amy chatted in where you can post your job. Is it business as usual? Are you frozen? Have you been cut or you're in the middle of cuts? And while we do that, thanks, Amy, you can post your job or that you're looking on this Google Drive link. We will keep this access alive for weeks. So if you're watching this recording, go hit that. But I've been seeing lots of people come to me about, can you help me find somebody? And obviously I get the other side too, right? Oh, I'm looking. So let's connect great people. That's what we need to do to help each other because we have been under fire. And I will show the results in a second that are showing some interesting changes. In the meantime, I want to talk about other tools. We've had some amazing tips for getting buy-in. I want to talk about tools that have helped. Anna, I love the idea of the manager-only chat. Nice job. The holistic communications plan for managers. It ain't a one and done, folks. What other tools have helped you have a manager-first approach? John or Cheryl, you want to speak up on that? We're looking for mute. She's not.
Sorry, I was looking for unmute and my bad. I was typing something about Anna. Can you just repeat the question real quick?
Love it. This happens to all of us. Any other tools, and John, you can jump in first. Any other tools you've used, like Anna's chat panel or communications plan, things that have helped you have the manager first approach?
It's almost coy to say sometimes it's the meeting after the meeting, or it's a beer after work, kind of thing. Or, in terms of getting down to a personal level with these folks. And, as Anna said, we're all trying to row in the same direction. And, conveying that sincerity that, you're there to help them get that job done, goes a very long way.
Thank you for that. Cheryl, how about
I
you?
So I think over time, what I have done the best is really focus on helping the managers succeed. And this is kind of how I approach it with leaders too. Like, if somebody comes to me, this drives me nuts. I do not do intake forms. Like, do not do an intake, like, here, go do this. I'm asking you to do something. Because when somebody comes to me and says, we need negotiations training, I just want to stop and back up and say, let's talk about what you're seeing and what problem you're trying to solve. And honestly, sometimes somebody asks for a training about something and you get down to the problem, and the problem has nothing to do with training.
It's
So
never negotiation, folks. It's never
it's
negotiation.
so for me, partnering with managers and having tools available, a lot of it is just, let's get down to brass tacks. Like, what are you seeing that you want to change? What problem are you trying to solve? And is that even a training, or can we do it just by saying, hey, we have a communication that we can roll to the team and just make clarity out of something that's not clear? And I just I think working with managers is just all about being in the boat with them. I really truly feel like enablement is in the boat with our sellers, with our leaders, and just trying to help leaders get productivity, performance. A lot of that can be human skill gap, or you're trying to change something and there's a whole change management process, which is not about training. It's about communication and expectation setting and helping people, taking them by the hand and helping them up the hill. Like, we're all doing it together. And that to me is key. And then managers see you totally differently. You're not the, I need training and you do training. They're, oh, I have a problem. You can help me figure out, like, kind of in a holistic way, how I could solve for that. And sometimes you got to grab marketing, grab product. You need more people than just yourselves.
So one easy way to do that, exactly what Cheryl said, is I go and I sit with the directors and I sit with the managers and I just say, I'm setting up my desk next to you. I'm just here to watch. Like, I don't want to waste your time. You don't need to tell me what you need. You don't need to tell me how it goes. You don't need to tell me how bad the reps are, or that they suck at negotiation. I'm going to sit with you. So I'm in the boat. You want a snack, you want water, like, I'm here for you. That goes so far. And I just take notes and I make my recommendations and I make my observations, and then I ask them, how are they feeling? How did that go? But if you have a chance to sit directly next to a leader and just watch what they do for a day or two, you will learn more than that 30-minute meeting when you ask them 5 questions. And so, I mean, that was my secret tip, but you can all have it.
I also think we can bring insights. Like, we can go to a leader and say, I'm noticing your team, like, your pipeline was 3x, but now it's 2x. Like, what's happening? Why is that? Like, you can bring some insights and say, I'm noticing this. Let's talk about how we can get back to good, or something to that effect.
Trend spotting is tough when you're busy in the weeds with the day-to-day deals. And so, right, we're not being accusatory. We're not trying to fix it. We're just trend spotting and asking for feedback. A couple good ones in the chat. Tara, you sent this just to us and the hosts and panelists, but getting buy-in is about helping understand what's in it for them. Right. So what, Anna, your example was, hey, it's good for the company, but for John, it really may be getting that promotion. And for Michelle, it really may be getting her reps up to speed so that they love their jobs more, or whatever that is. And the other great tip she shared, and I love this one too, is finding those 1 or 2 people. John, you said it earlier, right? Finding and grooming your evangelists, but picking them's important. right? Like I like to say, if you really want to do this well, have somebody from the enablement team, somebody from the sales team, their job is liaison, and they come to each other's meetings, right? But you don't want that flunky bottom of the boat manager that everybody loves and everybody respects, and it's important to get their buy-in. And it makes a difference. Like sometimes we have to use what works in middle school. Amy had me in the chat, like a priority list, right? And which one's aligning to the goals and getting them to prioritize that. I love that a lot. Does anybody else have a top secret tip or tool they want to share? I'm going to share our poll results. While we,
The one thing I will say is I agree with having your like sales manager bestie that tells you what's good. You also need to make friends with the worst manager. Typically the most annoying, obnoxious, doesn't listen.
I need training.
Yeah, go and you don't have to like force yourself into their lives, but you get a lot out of just sitting next to them in the training because they're gonna complain and they're gonna tell you why it's not gonna work and why they hate you and what all the things. But if you remove all of the fluff, there could be good nuggets in there. So it is nice to feel good about, oh, my program was great and my bestie, my sales manager bestie liked it. That's great to get that. But I also think sit next to the most obnoxious one and you'll learn a lot there too.
It's a really good point.
We would strategize with the champions. Like, what do you think is the issue? Like, what are we missing? And, enablement, sometimes you just gotta try to get people to use a tool they don't want. It's so much more than that, though. So absolutely, you're spot
And
on.
if you could split, like Anna was we were yin and yang, right? So I was kind of the come in hot one. So
Good cop, bad cop, it
so
works.
Anna was like the nurturing one. I'm like, you have to sit by this one, and I'm gonna go over here, and then after in the bathroom, we're gonna be like, how did it go? So you got to strategize.
I like that. I like that. That doesn't make you a good cop, Anna. I was gonna say that's what you a bad cop, Michelle, but it was drawn to you for a reason, one bad cop to another, I think. I knew instantly we were going to be besties. I'm going to share a couple tools that we built that were favorites at Factor 8. So the first one is this class that managers go to first. Skip, you were talking about it earlier. Like you can't teach them what they're supposed to do. Like there's a way it works, but nobody knows how it works. Like, and you sit down and you start talking about Medic and adult learning theory and Kirkpatrick and you want to die, right? So we built a class called Developing Your Team, and it makes it fun and easy for them about what's their role. What do you say before training? What do you say after training? How do you support it? Why is the coaching important? Low cost, no cost. Here's a development plan template you can have. So just congratulations. Now you're a people leader. Here's what this means in terms of developing your people. So we preach so you don't have to, and I'll send you guys a link to that. But we also, I think what we're best at are manager tools. And the reason that's important is that if you want managers to do something for you, you have to make it fast and you have to make it easy. So instead of saying, come to the training and learn it all, or here's the tool, become an expert so you can teach your team, whatever that is, we put it on a cheat sheet. Here's good, here's ugly, here's legal questions you can cheat with that you can ask in your coaching form. And here's the coaching form. And here's exactly what you should look at for the rep to do and for what the customer should do at the end of it. And it's just, and by the way, here's 2 activities that you can run in your huddle. So you don't have to create it from scratch. Make it fast and make it easy with the manager tools. All right, I've got one last poll I'm going to launch for everybody. We've been talking about resources being cut, and on this group, not bad. I'm happy about that. Are we looking at that already? Enablement shot poll number 4. How do you manage with fewer resources? Because it's not letting me launch. All right, not going to do nothing. Off we go. All right, I'm going to ask everybody for any final tips that they want to share for the manager first approach. And then I'm going to start my screen share again so that we can give a couple resources to everybody. You've been seeing some in chat, but some of us are dialed in and may not have access to that. All right. Go ahead.
One thing I would say is I don't know if any of you attended the Forrester event 2 weeks ago. They were talking about what is the world going to look like and how do you retain employees? And I think it ties to this topic because the thing that people want is for their jobs to be easy, so systems and tools and process, and they want to be developed. And I think if you can figure that out for the managers first, it starts to trickle down throughout all of the other areas within an organization. If you can help figure out, how do I make a frontline manager's job easy? How do I give them the tools that they need? And then how do I develop them to be a manager first? You are going to have really happy employees who know what to do and feel supported. And that is where we are moving as a culture, and just all of our being in tech. That is what people want. And so I would just say, when you're building things, when you're trying things, if you keep those two things in mind as you're designing, it can go a really long way.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm sharing some resources here. Everybody should be seeing our free resources. Some of these we've already chatted in. The tip sheets, how to partner with revenue leaders or revenue folks, how to partner with enablement. You can share that with your pals. The enablement talent exchange folks, if you're hiring or if you're looking, please go there. You can see a recorded webinar I told you about last week, where we're talking about proving ROI. And yes, I'm going to share with you in a second how you can get free federally backed training as well. But first, I'm going to have Gail to say hello. Gail, you're head of the Revenue Enablement Society, and membership is $2 or $3 grand a year, right?
It is so not. It's 100% free. Thank you.
So
And thanks for
thanks
a great webinar. I love this. I can't tell you how passionate I am about manager training. Managers go first. They are the linchpin and also sometimes the nightmare. So great discussion today. Thank you so much. I am so excited for everybody on the call who doesn't know about the Revenue Enablement Society. Please take a few minutes, come on over, join. It's 100% free. It's a community of over 10,000 people globally in the revenue enablement profession. You can find local chapters, you can find discussion groups, you can find information about our upcoming global conference that will be in Chicago on October 22nd to the 24th. We're also launching some really cool mastermind groups coming up in the next couple of weeks, which will give members of our community an opportunity to start collaborating on some best practices. So we'd love to have people sign up for that as well.
Thank you. Everybody get in there, join free, never before you need it, baby. One other really cool announcement to make. This is news even to my panelists. So when funding started to get cut in enablement, and we saw budgets get cut and people get cut, an amazing team led by Ted Martin went out and found federal funding and federal programs. So we're really excited to announce that Factor8 is now the first sales certification partner, that it's not only a federally recognized sales certification, it's federally funded. So if you can go hit our site here and sign up to get some more information. The space is absolutely limited, but we're really excited about providing this. So if you do want to work with outside vendors but don't have the budget, we got you covered. Thank you so much, Amy, for chatting that in as well. The last one I'll tell you about, because I referred to it 20 times, is this team. Developing your team. It's an online course and toolkit for frontline managers. Factor8.com/develop. We preach so you don't have to. And one last goodbye and thank you to this amazing panel. Can you believe it? That was over 60 minutes gone. Chat in, everybody. If you want them to find you as something other than what's on this screen, thank you for sharing your secrets. So many years of experience and success. Thank you for sharing it so unselfishly with the rest of us. We appreciate you so much. So chat your thanks into our awesome panel and have a fantastic day. We're going to leave all these links live for you and send a follow-up email as well. Hopefully these resources are helpful to everybody in the role. Thanks for playing along with us, everybody, today. And it's an amazing panel. Cheryl, you're the winner. We all know it. Thanks, everybody.
I got Anna. I win. She doesn't work for me, to be clear, but we get to be peers now, and I love that.
It's awesome. It's been so fun getting to know you today. Good to see you, my old friends. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.